Hi there. Welcome back to another video on this channel. Today I thought we'd do a kind of get to know me-ish video on this channel since my last video kind of blew up and I got a bunch more subscribers from that video. So thank you if you're new here. Hi, it's me, Cassidy. And I just wanted to do something to reintroduce myself, I guess, to you guys. So this is me doing my version of get to know my taste tag. This is something that's been going around for some booktube channels. I know I'm not a booktube channel specifically, but I do read books and sometimes I talk about them on this channel. So I thought I could partake in this as well. So if you're interested in that, just keep on watching. Okay, so get to know my taste tag. These are going to be a series of questions to kind of get to know my taste in books, see if we're similar. There's like a whole playlist or there's a whole group of people starting this tag. I think it was like started 3 weeks ago. I'll put the videos that I saw in the description so you can check it out if you want to make one of these videos for yourselves. But yeah, this is something that people have tried to do to like find more bookish creators and to see if like again their reading taste align and things like that. So yeah, let's get into it. Hey. The first question is, how do you write books? And honestly, I write books based on vibes. This is more of a question about whether or not you use a star system. I only use a star system when I post on Goodreads, which again isn't very frequently. I kind of think Goodreads is a little outdated, but I'm too lazy to make the switch to another platform. So there you go. But I'll use star system when I'm on Goodreads. And then that is like just more of like personal taste and feelings in the moment. Although, like, I'll read back and I'll read old reviews, and if anything, maybe I'm just, like, a little too critical in the moment, and then when I'm, like, thinking back on it, I am a lot more kinder in the future, but yeah, anyway, so I use the star system for Goodreads, but for the most part, my more fun book reviews or what I think is more fun is just me talking about books here on YouTube, and I don't really use the star system when I talk about books on YouTube. I just, like, ramble on about, like, what I liked about them or what I didn't like about them, if it left a good impression on me, things like that. Also, since I am a writer myself and I self-publish, the star system's important for, like, the algorithm purpose, but I do wanna give, like, a more holistic interpretations of the book I read. Also, I don't really talk a whole lot about, like, negative books that I read or, like, I don't really talk shit on a lot of things I read unless I, like, absolutely think, like, this person's, like, a piece of shit and they just deserve it, I guess, which again isn't very often. I'm not that kind of person at all. Yeah, I don't really talk about negative books negatively unless there's something glaringly like I just can't do it and I need to warn other people about it. But for the most part, since I'm a writer myself, I know what it's like to go through that process and I'll just say something wasn't for me or not. I think I kind of already touched on this, but how do you approach reviewing books? Literally with grace and vibes. And yeah, I know there's some people who are like really cheeky online and they'll do really short reviews and just be like, this is perfect for brat era. I've been trying to do that. I'll do that on Goodreads, but again, my more like well thought out stuff is just me rambling on YouTube. So you get different versions depending on what platform you're on. Sometimes I'll post to Instagram about what I'm reading, but then I write reviews for stuff that really inspires me, or maybe something else that's written by a fellow indie author. I'll put more weight into reviewing that than I am just like a book that's already mainstream and pretty popular. What's the book that made you a reader? So I've been reading since childhood. I have like a whole shelf of my favorite childhood reads up there that you can't see. Unfortunately, I was a very big Harry Potter kid. I no longer support She Who Shall Not Be Named just because she always says something stupid or she actively tries to harm people within like the trans community and like other marginalized communities and like she's just kind of a bigot. So J.K. Rowling and I are not friends anymore, but I was very much a Harry Potter kid and I grew up on that. I was like obsessed and I won a Harry Potter lookalike contest when I cosplayed as Harry, and I won a whole set of the books at Notre Dame. I would go to Borders for the midnight releases of some of the later books. I started reading those with my grandma. That was like our thing. But like I read other sorts of books outside of that. Another big series I was into was clearly like the Goosebumps series. If you know anything about like what I write, you know that that's the 100% a major source of inspiration for me. My mom was our librarian in elementary school, so we spent most of our time after school just chilling in the library with her, when she worked there for a few years, and I would just sit and consume every Goosebumps book we had in the collection. My favorite ones were the like choose your own adventure type Goosebumps books where you could try to figure it out, and I would reread and try to get like the best endings and stuff. But I still love Goosebumps. I'm really nostalgic as somebody who grew up in like the early 2000s. That was just a big part of who I am, and I think that really sparked my love of like scary stories and horror, and they even the accompanying like TV series. I was like obsessed with that, and the intro and the creepy dog with the eyes. Yeah, that's really what sparked it. But again, I read a lot as a kid. I was very shy and sort of introverted, so that kind of came naturally to me to be a reader rather than, I don't know, somebody who's like going out there. I got more outspoken as I got older, but like, yeah, my safe place was always just in bed reading. So, do you have a genre niche? Okay, so yes, I would say that I have my preferred genres for sure. Number one, horror. I read horror. I write horror. I like scary things. I love scary books. That is probably the majority of what I consume. And my favorite aspect of horror is women going crazy or queer focused horror. Those are the two that I really engage in. I engage in a lot of queer media in general, but like I like queer stories, queer horror stories. When I do read romance, which is very rare, most of the romances I read are sapphic romances. So if you're into that, you can watch this channel because that is literally the only like the only romance I read is like sapphic romance, with the exception of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies series. I like that man. I like that sassy spoiled brat. Anywho, so that's that. So primarily horror. I do like a good mystery or thriller, although I haven't read a whole lot of thrillers lately. I've read a lot of cozy mysteries and I like those, but I'm starting to realize they all have a very similar style of writing that might not just be for me. I feel like there's some genres that are really like cookie cutter, and I've been reading like a lot of cozy mysteries that revolve around food. And with the two authors I have read, they have a very, very similar writing style. Like, and I was almost thrown off by it. So I'm gonna keep reading food based cozy mysteries for you guys to see if that's like a continuous thing throughout that genre, or if it was just like a coincidence that I saw between these two people. But yeah, I like cozy reads. I like cozy fantasy reads. I really like Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. That's like a good example of like a cozy fantasy romance that I'll read. But that's the extension of it. I'm not a romanticy person at all. I don't read a lot of hardcore fantasy or science fiction. I'll read science sci-fi, but it's not my go-to. So again, certainly go-tos horror. Every now and then a thriller mystery. I'm really into nonfiction as well. I read a lot of nonfiction. Sometimes that has to do with research or writing, but other times it's just personal curiosity. I read a lot of nonfiction about science, plants, physics, psychology. Read a lot of books on psychology and just something that whatever piques my interest at the time, history. And I'll show you guys some of my favorite books later on in the video. But yeah, horror, thriller, mystery, nonfiction, cozy books, and then every now and then a romance story. But like even within horror, I will also occasionally read gothic stories, which may not like fall into horror completely. I like gothic as a subgenre of horror a lot, and like I like forest vibes. So every now and then you might get something from me that's more leans into like a gothic tale than strictly horror. But yeah, that's kind of like what I like to read. Do you generally prefer character driven or plot driven stories? I like a mix of both, but I find myself gravitating more towards character driven stories lately. And I don't know if it's just because of the personal theme and like growth of the character. And I think that's a very easy thing to do within horror is to like focus more on character issues than plot. Yeah, I've been noticing that I've kind of like that more. Again, I talked about liking weird women. I think a good example of that is like Chlorine by Jade Song. I have it up here. This is very much about a girl who thinks she's a mermaid. And she goes to great lengths to live out her dreams as a mermaid, but there's moments of body horror in this that might scare off the casual reader. So enter at your own risk. But that's the kind of story that I really gravitate to. So yeah, more character driven, and the plot can be weird and not make sense, and that's okay with me. But if it is a plot, I don't pick apart plot, I think, the same way other people do, unless something's like glaringly like like, how the heck did they get to the top of the mountain in like one day, right? Something like that. What's one book you love so much that you don't care if other people don't like it? Let me show you. The answer to that is Bunny. If you watch this channel, you know this is my favorite book of all time. I'm a big fan of Mona Wada. I actually met her last year. That was eventful. I embarrassed myself in front of her, but that's fine. But anyway, Bunny is the book that I will love so much that I don't care if anybody else hates this. I love this book. It is bizarre. It is weird. Most of Mona Wada's writing is bizarre and weird. Again, weird women. Love it. I've had friends who have read this book and they've been like, what in the world is this? And that's okay. They don't have to get it. I get it. I get you, Bunny. I love you, Bunny. And there's a sequel of Bunny coming out here soon. So I'm very excited to get my hands on that. But yeah, this is Bunny by Mona Awad. This is one of my favorites. If you like weird women descending into madness and blurred realities and poking fun at academia, you'll love this. Okay, what's a book you love so much that if someone doesn't like it, you know that your reading tastes don't align? Okay, I'm going to pull up a book that is pretty controversial. And I'm going to explain why I picked it right now. So normally I don't really care if people don't like what I read, like to each their own. Everybody's got different tastes. But if you are somebody who is kind of in horror spaces, I'm pulling up this book more so because of like the themes around it rather than the content necessarily. So mine is going to be Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin. Now, this book's pretty controversial. It is very graphic. It is a post apocalyptic society where men turn into these zombie like creatures and women aren't affected by the virus. But then this story follows around to trans women and their ongoing plight to find hormones to suppress that, and like how they navigate through this like very gender binary post-apocalyptic sense, especially when there's like a bunch of turfs on the rise. And they have some people that will like help them through, but it is a hot mess of things. And I have to give really big trigger warnings in here. There's all sorts of violence in this, but sometimes there's also sexual based violence in this, which again, normally I cannot read. Like I cannot, like I do not like that in horror. I love this because this is the whole fucking point. Like this is a story that is meant to highlight the dangers that come with the trans experience, shine a light on the brutality of like how we treat trans women in particular. There are some reviews of this where that kind of goes over people's heads, and there's some women in particular that take offense to how certain women are portrayed in this story. And again, it's not like all the women, because again, there's like definitely allies in here. There's also like a trans man character. For me, this is just like, are you down? Like, do you get the cause or not? Are you just into horror because you like all the bloods and guts, or do you like it because like, do you like the messaging behind it? Okay, anyway, yeah, Manhunt. So again, I don't judge you if you can't handle like the graphicness of this book, because truthfully, in any other context, I probably wouldn't be able to either. And again, I'm not one who normally reads a shit ton of graphic horror or like super in your face. A lot of what I like to read can be more supernatural focused rather than just people being violent. But again, this is more so for me to really understand like kind of like where your values are. It's kind of like a test for me, because like if somebody were to say like, oh, I love the ideas in this book, but it's just like too scary for me or too much, that's one thing. And like how you critique this book would probably be an indicator of whether or not we would have similar tastes. Because like I said, I read a lot of queer fiction. I read a lot of like own stories, and I read a lot of queer horror. So are you down with understanding that this isn't just like, ooh, let's tackle like, ooh, representation, or like here is somebody's like lived experience on the page, freaking scary as hell. Like granted, this is like a fictional setting, it's like fictitious, right? But still, I don't know, this is kind of like my ultimate barometer, be like, how do you feel about Manhunt? Just as a reader perspective. And again, as somebody who writes horror, this is also good for me to kind of weed out other horror writers, to be like, because there's some people who write horror because they're like into the aesthetics and into the spooky ookiness of it, and that's fine too. But then there's some people like me that are like, horror is a great way to deliver a message. I think especially like for contemporary art, horror is a great way to make political commentary, to get a message out, to do whatever, right? To really hit on the lifeline of people and how they're feeling at a given time. And so I like to find those people versus just like the aesthetics people. And there's nothing wrong with being an aesthetics person, but that's just That's just me. That's just how I read the room, if that makes sense. Okay, number 8. What's in your trash pocket? Books, tropes, themes that are so bad, but you love them anyway. I don't know if I have a trash pocket necessarily. Like a trope I really love is Found Family, and I will eat that sucker up like breakfast, I guess. And again, I'm not a romance person, so I don't really read into a lot of like the romance tropes or really know like what works for me. I mean, I like sassy men. If I'm gonna read a hetero presenting romance, I need a sassy flamboyant man to like make that work. But I guess in terms of like certain books that are just trashy, but I still like. I mean, I read the Twilight series. I have very fond memories about that. Those books are rough, and some of the writing in them and like the ideas are very rough, and the movies are very rough. But it's still kind of like, eh. And like I'll still put a Twilight movie on with like my sister if we ever just want to be like silly. I made Douglas watch all the Twilight movies because he just had to have that experience. Like you can't live your life without watching the Twilight series. Again, I read them when they were popular back when I was like middle school. So that was it gives me fond nostalgia of being a middle schooler. And yeah, I was like back then I was like on Team Jacob, like it was a whole thing. My sister was Team Edward. I had like a Taylor Lautner life size cutout in my room. It was really cringe. And I don't know, I still like cringy things to this day. So I guess maybe that is in my trash pocket. Do you have any deal breakers in books? I think for me, it's more so of and I say this about horror specifically. I don't really like gratuitous violence, especially violence against women and queer people, unless there's like a point to the story. Again, if I reference Manhunt, there is a point to this. It is horrible because it is somebody writing about the trans experience, and I believe the author themselves that they're trans as well. So like there's a whole point to the storytelling of it being horrible, right? But sometimes people will write things that are just kind of messed up for shock value. And I think the shock value part is like what really gets me. And again, everyone could have different definitions of like what shock value is, but I don't some things are just a lot for me. Like when I read about sexual violence, especially sexual violence against children, I kind of talked about this in my last video, but like that is a bit of a trigger for me. I'm somebody who's unfortunately like experienced that myself as a child and as an adult. So not really my favorite. Like there's some books I've had to stop reading just because I didn't see a trigger warning about that or something, and then it ended up like messing me up. So that's annoying. And you would think like, oh girl, you write horror, you're supposed to be into that. I'm into horror when it's like I don't know. I'm into horror when things make sense. I'm not into horror for like edge lord type reasons. You know what I mean? I'm into horror the same way I really like movies like Get Out because it's like reflective on somebody's experience and like their perspective as somebody living in US as a minority. I don't like just like edgy people like having a woman run naked through razor blades for like shock horror or like borderline pornographic reasons. You know what I mean? And that's my opinion. That's like my deal breaker. Like, I don't need that mess. And thankfully, I don't find a lot of books like that. If you want horror recs that are a little bit more alternative and away from that like negative stereotype, come to my channel. I got you. I got you, friend. We will read them together. What's a strong opinion you have about a book that was released in the past year? So here's the thing. I don't really keep up with release dates for most people. I'm really bad at that actually. And I feel like I'm always behind with like the trending TikTok books and stuff. Like that's probably why my channel doesn't grow or my book reviews aren't interesting because I don't pick the TikTok books. I just go based off of mood and vibes. If you look at my last video, I had a very strong opinion about a book that was trying to get released this year and then got taken off, which was that like Daddy's Little Toy video or whatever. So you can check that out if you want. I had a very strong opinion about that book being kind of gross. Yeah, I don't have one for a book that came out this year, unfortunately. But I'm just gonna flash some books at you that I really enjoyed that I've read recently that I feel like should get a little bit more love and attention. So I'm just gonna like flash them on screen for you right now. I got a lot on my lap, sorry. So if you want a thriller, this Bright Young Woman, again, it is about a serial killer who goes after the main character's friend and they die. And like the friend is personally trying to hunt him down and bring him to justice, but not in like a vigilante way, like in an actual like court of law type way. There's also Sapphic Women in here. This is a fictionalized version of a serial killer, but it's based off of people we know. This I loved very, very much, and I think should get a little bit more love. I also enjoyed reading Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. This is, again, for people who like nostalgia like myself, this is a story about people who were once part of a cast on a children's television program. They are living their lives now as adults, but they're being called back to do like some sort of reunion for the show. A lot of them are kind of have messed up lives because of trauma. But then they come back and they realize their childhood wasn't as magical and wonderful as it seems. There is like some eldritch horror monster thing in here mixed with the television. And when I read this, I was like, girl, is this author Mormon? Because this is giving Mormon vibes. And lo and behold, she was raised Mormon. I was correct. And I was like, wow, I can really pick them. That's just like a superpower I have lately. I think that's because I watch so much like true crime content or like other content that sometimes is Mormon adjacent. I can like smell them out. So yeah, if you like culty-ish vibes and anything I described, check out Mr. Magic. I like writing a lot of nostalgia-based horror, so that was a good one for me to read. I really enjoyed House of Hollow. If you, again, we're talking about like kind of gothic vibes. This is more of a gothic vibe. This is a YA, so it's not too intense with the horror. But if you want like vibes, this is full of vibes. This is about a bunch of sisters. One of them goes missing and they try to find her. And it turns out that there is like they went missing when they were children and then they magically reappeared, but their appearances completely changed and they acted weird after that. This weirdness is following them around into adulthood when the sisters goes missing, and this sort of entity is after them, and then they cross over into this other world. And if you like gothic death decaying floral vibes like the cover, you will love this. I really like this book. Check it out. A nonfiction rec I have, if you're really okay, this is kind of like a heavy read, so if you could read through a thick scientific paper, you can read this. Sometimes it's dragged for a little bit for me, but I really, really like this nonfiction book if you're into history and archaeology and things like that. It's called Kindred, a Neanderthal Life, Love, Death, and Art. I love this. I really like learning about some of our early ancestors, or not really our ancestors, but cousins. If you're white or European, these might be your ancestors actually, because there's like some people who have Neanderthal DNA too. But anyway, our distant cousins, it really humanizes them in this book. There's evidence of them making necklaces and purses and stuff like that, and I found that to be kind of romantic in a way. So this is a great nonfiction rec for you if you're into nonfiction. Again, if you like Silvia Morena Garcia, I tend to read a lot of her books. I've read like 3 or 4, but this is my favorite one. It's The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. This is like a retelling of an older story, but again, this is more of a dark fantasy, I think, that takes place more like on the Yucatan Peninsula. And there is like animal people hybrids in this story. And it's pretty good. So this is my favorite of Silvia Morena Garcia's work that I've read so far. I've also read, what's it called? Velvet Was a Night. And I've read a Mexican Gothic that was really good too. Again, be careful with Gothics because sometimes they do have a lot of like essay in them as a plot point. This one does not. So I kind of like this one better. This reads more of like a dark fantasy sci-fi type thing. But yes, this one's very good. And then something I just finished. Oh my god, yes. Okay, something I finished and came out last year in 2024. I'm going to talk about this one as my strong opinion about a book that was released within the past year. Sister Snake is so good. Oh my god, read this. This is so good. I picked this up on a whim at a bookstore close to me that specializes in Asian voices. And this, oh my god, this was so good. I was gripped the whole time. Again, there is mention of essay, but like not like graphic really, and it's more about like snakes. Not a snake on a person, but snake on snake crime. But anyway, basically, so these two snakes, they achieve enlightenment in some capacity and turn into humans, and they're snake human shapeshifters, and they're best friends and they love each other. But then some drama happens, and it's so good. One of them's in New York, the other one is in Singapore, and they have opposite personalities, but they're both like dealing with humanity in different ways. And it's really like people experiencing humanity for the first time, even though they're like centuries old, and the same sort of cycles keep coming up for them. but it's so good. Please read this book, Sister Snake. This came out this year. This is my pick for question 10. Read it. It's great. What do you look for in writing? Okay, so this is just a personal preference for me, and it's hard for me because I am a writer. So I don't want to like describe my own stuff because I like reading stuff that's like different from mine too. But I've noticed that like for me, when I'm reading a book, I am more excited about a book if there is extensive like world building or something believable, or just like really focusing on atmospheric elements as well as, you know, plot, dialogue, whatever. But I don't really care as much about dialogue as I do scenery, just me as a person. I'm definitely more of a flowery language type person, but I'm trying to steer away from that in my own writing because I've been told that I like overwork my sentences. So I'm trying to be more simplistic with my writing, and I hope that comes across because I want to be able to reach all sorts of audiences. Yeah, I like a book that gives me vibes. I like if you can curate a vibe. For me, I don't like too personable of a narrator's voice. I kind of like more of a not really an objective narrator because I don't mind an unreliable narrator. I think they're a lot of fun, but I just there's like certain voices like if it's too casual, then sometimes it's like a turn off for me. And again, I think that's why I have a hard time with like romance because sometimes the voice is far too casual, or like even with some of the cozy reads I've been having, sometimes I feel like those voices are far too like, "Hey girl." And that's just not my jam. But yeah, I like something that focuses more on immersive experience of writing than just, you know, "Ooh, this is what this hot girl looks like, and she's going to talk to this hot guy and then do this and this and this." Again, I'm not like hitting on romance because romance can be very atmospheric as well. Like again, one of the reasons why I really like Emily Wilde's series is because of how atmospheric it is. And I still would categorize that as like a romance primarily, but you know, that's just me. How do you decide what to read next? Vibes. That's just the answer for most of these questions. I'm sorry. But I have like a stack and I'm staring at it right now. You can't see, but I have about a 7 book stack here, and then there's 4 books on my nightstand of books that I've started and I have not finished yet. So that's kind of like how I choose my next reads. I will go online and I'll like look up some booktubers I trust and see what they're reading and see if anything sounds interesting to me and put it on a list. But for the most part, like if I walk in a store and feel called to something, I'll get it. Or if I've seen something circulating on Instagram for a while, I'll put it on my list and pick it up when I'm in the store. But I really just kind of am a mood reader at heart. I don't really plan things out probably like the better YouTubers do. And I just am like, okay, today I feel like reading a classic, or today I feel like reading nonfiction. Today I feel like doing this and this and this. So it's a little bit chaotic, but if you like chaos, I'm your gal. Where do you get inspiration for your booktube content? Okay, so for me, I am not strictly a booktube YouTuber. I don't just do book reviews. In this channel, I also talk about like writing stuff, stuff that I think people might find useful if they want to write books too. I also do a lot of vlogs of just like my life or like writing events that I go to. I did a vlog for this event up in Grand Haven, Michigan, where I was selling books there. And it was cute. And then I did like a recap of everything that I bought there. So I do like personal content like that too. I'm gonna do another vlog coming here soon for a book event in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That's gonna be a little bit more like edgy. Like it's a queer horror event at this bar called The Final Girl up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So if you're in the area, like feel free to say hi. I'll be there April 19th from 3 to 8 p.m. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to vlog that experience too and show kind of like how you get ready for it, like what the event looks like, while the books and stuff, and then do like a recap at the end with like my thoughts. That's kind of like how I do my videos. And I hope people like them. I don't know. I don't know. I like making them. So yeah, so there's a little bit of everything. I used to talk a lot about like makeup and like video games because those were also my interests, but I haven't made content like that in a while because writing and books have kind of just taken over my life since I decided to write professionally full time. So yeah, I'll talk about my own books. I'll talk about writing things, events coming up. I also like do a lot of like not drama videos, I say as I smile, but I'll just talk about like what's going on in the bookish community or like writing spaces in general. Like if authors are acting up, I'll talk about it. Or if I see something on threads that's like crazy. I'll talk about it here, I guess, too. Those videos always do very well. I don't always like making them because it puts me under a lot of stress. Like that last video put me under a lot of emotional stress, not gonna lie. So I try to like avoid those if I can, but at the end of the day, I think that's like what people come to my channel for. So I like make them within good reason. It's as an author, it's hard. Like I don't want to like target people in like a competitive way because that's like not who I am at all. But I feel like with the last video that was like very justified based on like what that author was being accused of, what Tori Woods was being accused of. And like also I'll talk about like really famous authors like Neil Gaiman doing some stuff. And I feel like that's like a punching up situation. So it's fine. Like this is like a really wealthy person who's done harm to women. So I don't know, but you'll never catch me talking about other my peers, right? Like nothing like that. But like with something like outrageous, then yeah, I'll probably talk about it just to let people know like this is what happened, and this is what's up. So in terms of other people, I know Reese with Rachel does similar content. And I watch her a lot. She does book reviews and then sometimes she'll talk about like some crazy stuff happening in the world, in the book community. She's had a real focus on book banning since she lives in Florida, and that's like a hot a hot topic there. And she'll talk about certain people that come try who come drive to her school district and like try to influence policies around books when they don't even have children there. Reads with Rachel, I watch a lot. Reads with Cindy is probably one of my favorite booktubers. I like her recommendations a lot. She also does kind of like vlogs occasionally, or she'll do like one book, one video dedicated to like one book, and it's like a whole recap session. And I just like how she retells stories. She's very sassy, very funny. So if you would be interested in that, check her out too. If you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? Probably my own books. To be honest, please, please, please. Yeah, I've written 3 books. I always put links to them in the description below if anybody's interested in checking them out. I have another book that's coming out soon on May 23rd that I will make a dedicated video for, but that's coming out soon. So if that went viral, that'd be really cool. Especially considering it's a short story collection, like a scary short story collection all about memes and like early social media culture. So it takes place in like the 2010s, and it's so funny because like I reference like some YouTuber makeup beauty YouTuber drama and it's just like ridiculous challenges that were popular at the time, like the Tide Pods challenge. So I'll do a video specifically on that book when everything's all locked and ready to go. I got my author's proof. I'll be posting a picture of me with that soon. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know this is like sneak peek. Haha, it's coming out. Cursed Images, the sequel, Cursed Images Social Media Madness, is coming out on May 23rd, and I'll be posting more about that soon. So check out my post. But like even if it wasn't my book, I would probably try to get some other like horror author friends of mine to go more viral. There's one in particular, Damian Casey. His books are off the wall. They are, I think you'll either love them or hate them, but he writes in his own little genre that he calls bubblegum bizarro, and he writes the silliest like he likes writes horror about like cryptids and stuff, but they're done in such a silly way. I think I've mentioned one of his Bigfoot stories here on the channel before, but he constantly writes these like off the wall zany stories, and he's a good guy. So I would like his stuff to go viral, and I will be posting pictures of some of his works here. Likewise, there's like other people in the horror community that I'm friends with on Instagram that I'd like to see go more viral, give a little love to. I think in terms of people who write similar stuff to me, there's somebody called Wendy Dalrymple. I know she's an independent author and she also writes very similar stories to me or like what I like. So you could check her out as well. And I'll put other people on screen as I think of them. Try to check out more independent authors, really. I would like to see more independent authors get their stuff to go viral and have some success. So, yeah. Number 15, the last question. Who are some booktubers with reading tastes similar to yours? I, unfortunately, again, I'm not really cemented in the booktuber space right now. There's some people I watch, but I like them as a person, but like I don't think we have similar tastes at all. I think Reads with Cindy is the person that I have the most in common with, just because Bright Young Woman was actually a recommendation of hers, and so was House of Hollow. And I liked both of them very, very much. So I've actually gotten reading recs from reading with Cindy. I think she also goes by with Cindy because I think there was an issue with her username. But yeah, I get a lot of recommendations from her. These two books were great. She's also a queer lady, and I just feel like we have very similar tastes in books, and she'll introduce me to the new things I haven't heard of before. So that's really cool. So I would pick her out of everybody, but again, I'm not really familiar with a whole lot of booktubers. I think a lot of them read like romantasy and stuff, which just isn't my gig. I need to find more horror booktubers and and jive with them, I guess, but we'll see. Okay, so that's the get to know my taste tag. I hope you like this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment down below, share with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. Please, please, please. That would help me out a lot. Thank you to all my new subscriber friends that are here, and I just want to say hi to all y'all. Thank you so much, and I hope you continue to like all the content I put out. But until next time, thanks. Bye.